Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. I want to talk today about all this chaos that's going on, why it's happening, what their end goal is, and what you need to do to get yourselves ready. Before I get started, I want to mention again that we are having our expo coming up at the end of this month, the 26th and 27th. You can go to preparedhomesteadexpo.com and you can learn more about it. We have several vendors lined up, people to speak, product or skills demonstrations. It's just going to be an event that you can come together and meet others like you. You'll have the freedom to actually talk about all this stuff going on and not have someone look at you really weird like, what are you talking about? It'll be a great event for families, and it's a free event. So go to preparedhomesteadexpo.com and you can find out more information about it. All right, I want to hit some of the news going on right now because there's a lot of it. Top news this morning seems to be that Finland and Sweden have decided and given the go-ahead that they are going to apply for NATO membership tomorrow, as according to what the news is saying. Now, there's been a lot of threats from Russia that you better not do this, that we don't want this to happen. We don't want more NATO on our border, and they have said that there will be repercussions for this. So we'll see how this just pokes the bear even more with all the stuff that's going on in Europe and just the tensions and the wars and everything that's already happening, and the rumors of those wars, of new ones happening. So again, this is probably not going to be a good thing, but we'll wait and see, because I mean, who knows what's really going to happen. Also in the news, Pfizer has been given the go-ahead for their, thingy booster for little children, because apparently that's still a thing, and people are still worried about that and doing that. We got to make sure we keep people on edge, because heaven forbid people relax and realize that they've been duped. So let's keep pushing it ahead. Other things in the news is stuff that we've been talking about. All this food and this drought and just the problems in farming and the increased prices of fuel. And just the cost of doing business, especially for farmers. It's all getting worse. And with all the shortages that we're seeing because of cost increase and wars and things like that, on top of that, we have basically global drought conditions, at least in a lot of places. The United States, Canada, they're dealing with a lot of drought problems, and rumors are and projections are is that the wheat harvest this year is probably going to be as low as it's been since the 1960s. But it's not just here in the United States. Europe is dealing with drought conditions all over, from Spain, France, and various other places. Africa is dealing with horrible drought conditions to the point that they're expecting starvation in several of their developing countries. The Asian continent has been dealing, especially down in the south, has been dealing with record heats. I mean, some of the hottest temperatures anyone anywhere has ever seen, which of course is just decimating their crops this year. So this problem of food shortages, food price increases, it's not going to go away anytime too soon, because you have to realize the cyclical nature of farming, that what's happening this year, you and I in our grocery stores aren't really going to feel that until really next year. And so while things are expected to be pretty bad this year, whether it be food price increases or just the flat out shortages, next year is looking really bad, folks. So continue to prepare yourselves, continue to get your houses in order. Now, why is all this happening? I mean, we've thought about this, and we've all talked about this for a couple of years now. Just it seems like every day, all the time, next week, and then the next week, and then the next week, there's always some kind of thing going on that's just making everything worse, and no one can really understand why this is all happening. I mean, we just in a run of bad luck for the last couple of years. Well, no, not so much. I mean, the first and easiest answer is that it's all biblical, but the more direct answer is it's all planned. That's right. It's been planned for a very, very long time. There's, create order out of chaos, but they have to create the chaos first. And that's exactly what they're doing. They have to create the need for their agendas, the need for their plans for long-term development, because their plans are so radical and completely reboot and reset and reface everything that we've known for, well, our entire existence, that the only way for people to actually accept that all across the world is to find themselves in complete desperation. And so that's why we're seeing more and more things happen. These plans have been worked on for decades now. You go back to Agenda 21, it came onto the scene back in 1992 as the plan and the agenda for the 21st century. And then shortly thereafter, we had the Agenda 2030, which was the goals that we should hit as a species, as a planet by the year 2030. And then, of course, they have the 2050, which is, they hope, their plan is that by 2050 we'll all be living in this beautiful utopian, because all of their agendas and plans have been working and put into place, and by 2050 it's all brand new. I mean, it's just, it doesn't look like anything from the past. This stuff is it's real. It's not some kind of conspiracy theory. It happens, and it's been happening for a long time. And this is really the reason why all this stuff is going on. They have to create this chaos, because if they create a situation, their plan, their belief, and they're usually pretty correct on this, it causes the majority of the people to panic and to feel that they need to be saved. They need this assistance. So they create this dependency. And of course, who's there to come in and save the day? Well, it's the same people that created the problem in the first place. And so that's why we are seeing all of this happen. And of course, one of the next phases in all of this Great Reset, New World Order Agenda 2030 is ESG. And if you guys haven't heard about ESG, you should probably look into it. I won't go into great detail today because it's a big, heavy subject, but it's environmental, social, and governance. And it's basically a rebooted and politically correct way of saying social credit scores. It's hitting a lot of big businesses and small governments now. Basically, they can't get loans, or if they do get loans, they're going to pay a lot more, or they're not going to be able to acquire the contracts to do business, or they're going to get a lot worse deals on contracts to do business if their environmental scores aren't quite as good. It's kind of like a credit score, but it's all based on how clean you are and how environmental friendly you are and how socially tolerant you are. And that's just this new, like I said, a new social credit score system, and it's being put into place now all across this country. Just Google it. Google ESG loans, for instance, and you'll find all kinds of lending places that have standards now based on ESG on what they will loan you. This is just one more way of them controlling, taking control of government, taking control of commerce, private businesses, and eventually your personal life. I want to play you this clip here. This is from yesterday. This is the new press secretary, Jean-Pierre is her last name, and she took over from Psaki, Jen Psaki, that has now quit. And this particular little clip has been making its rounds since yesterday online because the Peter Doocy, who is the reporter, is kind of questioning her pretty hard on the president tweeting that if rich people paid their fair share of taxes, it would help inflation. And so that's where everyone's kind of focused on with this clip. But when I heard it, I heard some other things that I haven't really heard anyone talk about. So I want to play you this clip because not only is she dropping the ball on their question of how rich people paying more taxes is going to help inflation, but she flat out says that their goal is to create a fair government, a fair America, and then goes on to say that they have been generous with companies basically that follow ESG. She doesn't say those words, but she quite clearly talks about environmental issues with helping companies and being generous with companies. So I want to play this clip and just listen to the words that she's saying because in my opinion, in my opinion, this is way more important than the president tweeting something that absolutely makes no sense and is completely false. So here's the clip.
As we're talking about how to, build a America that's safe, that's equal for everyone and doesn't leave everyone behind, that is an important part of that as well.
But how does raising taxes on corporations lower the cost of gas, the cost of a used car, the cost of food for everyday Americans?
So look, I think we encourage those who have done very well, right? Especially those who care about climate change.
This is just more evidence, folks, that these sustainability goals that we've, most of us, if not all of us, have heard of with the United Nations and their Agenda 2030 and the World Economic Forum and their Great Reset. This is just showing that the government that we have, and not just our government, but governments all around the world, they have bought into this completely, and they're all completely part of it. And this has been going on for a while, and the big problem is that you and I are just now catching up. We're just now realizing this. And we're only realizing this is because they've gotten so deep into this agenda and conforming and manipulating the world and the government and the people into this agenda that it's becoming much more out in the open. And so now people are starting to see that, oh, well, wait a minute, what all these conspiracy theorists have been talking about for years must be real, because here we are, they're talking about it right out in the open. That's right, folks, it is real. And their plan is to completely rebuild everything. I mean, on the surface, it sounds really good, tolerance and coming together and fairness and all that kind of gooey, squishy, feel-good kind of words. But the problem is that government isn't fair, and government isn't capable of being fair if it wants to be just. Governments are meant to be just. That is what a good government is to be a just government. And a just government cannot be fair. They can't be both one and the same. It's either one or the other. And so when you choose a government that is fair, you're gonna leave a lot of people behind, and that's the problem with being a fair government and bringing about equality. It's nothing more than repackaged with a big pretty bow on it of communism. This has been happening for a long time, folks, and it's not going away. And in my personal opinion, and I don't consider myself a negative Nancy, doomsdayer pessimist, but it doesn't really matter who's elected as president. This agenda is going to keep going on. And if you don't believe me, look at the previous administration with Trump. While he may have stood one way on things, the vast majority of the entire government worked against him the entire time. And this has been part of their plan all along. They don't really care who's at the top. All they care is who's really pushing all the buttons. And those button pushers are the ones that's pushing us towards this global governance. Again, it's all biblical. Now, what in the world do we do about it? I mean, what are we supposed to do? Do we just roll over and play dead? Do we realize that these plans that have been put into place decades ago and that they have been working on decades before that it's just so overwhelming that we can't win against this, we can't survive against this, that we just have to roll over and play dead and realize that this is what it is? No, I don't believe so at all. I believe that we can win, especially on an individual basis, but we have to be prepared for that. The very first thing that you need to do is you need to prepare your heart and soul. That's right. You need to get right with the Creator, with the Father in heaven. That's my personal belief, my personal opinion, and so that's the first thing you need to do. The second thing you need to do is start preparing, building up your food and your other supplies that you need for an immediate emergency downfall, and that's where your food preps come into place. So continue building those. If you need help with finding long-term food, you can go to preparewithtravis.com and you can find some great products there. The third thing you need to do is becoming more self-sufficient, okay? The less dependence you have in your life for the system, therefore the less control that system has over you. So you need to be growing your own food. You need to be preserving your own food. You need to be living in a sustainable and self-sufficient way as possible. Not their kind of sustainable, but independent sustainable. That you are getting to a place to where you don't need their systems and their control in your life, to where you can survive on your own. Fourth thing, well, I don't remember, I've lost count already, is to work on building connections with other people, okay? I talked about that quite a bit yesterday. I think a few people got the wrong idea. I wasn't talking about everyone living on a piece of property in a hippie commune. That's not what I was talking about. I did use that as an example, but that's not what I meant. I was talking about, building connections with like-minded people so that we can have, trade routes. We can have small groups of individuals that live around each other to come to each other's aid and defense. And create small, independent little communities of people that have seceded from this world, seceded from this system. And that's another very important thing to do. Continue down this road of your own personal independence, your family's independence and self-sufficiency, and then building communities that are self-sufficient from these systems. If we can continue doing this, then we have a pretty good chance of surviving all of this, because the only other alternative is to, as Samuel Adams once said, crouch down and lick the hands that feed you. There's no other alternative, I believe. So we have to continue down this path of preparedness and self-sufficiency. They are one and the same, in my opinion. There is no one or the other, because the world is changing, and the world leaders and the people that are really in charge, they have already bought and paid for this plan. And you and I, we're just the cannon fodder, the collateral damage along the way, and so we don't want to find ourselves in that place. So continue to build your preps, continue to build your self-sufficiency, and continue to make contact with others and build your connections and communities amongst like-minded individuals. All right, folks, thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.